What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look at the review scores for Metaphor, ReFantazio. Obviously, they came out earlier today, and Jesus, what a day we've had, huh? Dragon Ball Sparking Zero does overall extremely good in terms of scores. Alien Isolation 2 was announced. I mean, we are living high. We really need to capture this moment and realize what we got, because we don't always get days, as good as this one. So right now, this is sitting at an incredibly high 94 on Metacritic, based off of 31 reviews. I think it's actually slightly higher on OpenCritic. I tend to look at Metacritic for this kind of stuff. But what this actually does is it puts it, I believe, in a tie for third place on the all-time PS5 list. It's like tied with Astrobot. I think it's also tied with Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. So, it's up there with like extremely high company as one of the highest rated PS5 games. And honestly, when you get into like 92 plus on Metacritic, you're looking at like one of the top reviewed games of all time. You're obviously going up against a lot more games from the past, but incredibly high number. And this one's going to be interesting because, well, firstly, what we tend to do in these videos, right? I don't really focus so much on the score. I mean, we just talked about the score. I really like to talk about what they said, right? 94, 95, 93. There really isn't that much of a difference to me, but it's what they say that has value, in terms of these reviews. So this is actually where it gets quite interesting because it's kind of just amazing across the board. I think one of the only weaknesses, and we can start at the weaknesses because there's just not a lot of them, and then we'll go to the strengths, is I did see a couple of them kind of talking about whether it was the pacing of the story, and like one of them in particular, I think, talked about that it takes a little while for the story to really grow. And a couple of them talked about kind of towards the ending. I think I saw one earlier today where, like, even as you think you're wrapping up, and you kind of are wrapping up, the game will actually continue to introduce characters to you, and they're great. They're great characters. There's lots to do with them, but you're kind of like at the end of the game. So I think in that way, the pacing is something that I've seen, right, kind of towards the end, or even just, you have limited time, and for those of us that have played the demo, right, the prologue of the game, we kind of know that, we know, I guess, the system of what they're doing. There's not a lot of time that the game affords you to do all these different activities, and one of the positives I've seen is there's not as much fluff as Persona. Like, you're going to be doing things all the time, and they're kind of meaningful things. Like, you really got to pick your battles of, which companions you're going to hang out with that day, or if you're going to invest in some of those skills, in terms of like talking to people, learning stuff, because that stuff will come back up later in the game, right? So it's a little bit more management-like, and again, in terms of like the only negatives, that can sometimes be almost to the game's disadvantage because things are so good and things feel so powerful and you want to do it, but you're actually limited, what you're able to do on any given day. And that's kind of it. I mean, you don't get a 94 for having like 10 issues, right? You get a 94 if you're overwhelming. What you think of the Astrobots of the world, that game is just amazing, right? Blanket statement. There's really very few negatives to that game, and a lot of the games that are in like the mid 90s, I guess, right? So Metaphor, pretty much what I saw, stands out in every way. I don't know if I needed these scores to tell me that. To be honest, it kind of just backs up my line of thinking from the prologue. I think that demo was phenomenal. I think it showed me, as I said, a week or two ago, I think this game is going to be, actually, I called it a long time ago, not even before this past week. I thought this game was going to be a Game of the Year contender months and months ago, and I feel like I'm going to be right. Whether it sells well, that's to be determined, right? But it seems like this game has everything it needs to legitimately be like a Game of the Year type game. The visuals, the setting, I saw a lot of people saying, like, you just literally choosing the time period of where they put this thing was a good idea. Some of the biggest praise I saw was that when Persona 6 comes out, Persona 5 is not the thing to clear for Persona 6. It's actually this game. And that, that's just like an opinion, right? That's one person's opinion. But I actually thought that was quite powerful in the way that it was said, right? Because, again, I think we kind of thought this game could be a Persona quality type game, a Game of the Year type game. But it's just cool, I guess, to see something where, yeah, in a couple years from now, probably, I mean, honestly, Persona 6 is probably only a year and a half, 2 years away. And when that game comes out, we'll probably be comparing comparing it to Metaphor, because Metaphor has really enhanced a lot of the mechanics from Shin Megami or from Persona itself, right? This has really enhanced a lot of those things, so this is kind of the bar to clear now. And as I was saying earlier, right, visuals, the soundtrack, I saw people talking about that, obviously the combat, the characters, I think, I think I saw a lot of good stuff about the story, but the characters, again, shined in a lot of these reviews, which I was very happy to hear it. And honestly, if you go back to some of my older videos on this game, I talked about, like, I think the biggest strength, that can be the biggest strength, are the characters. Like, if the characters nail it, that's something that I take away from Persona, where it's like the characters are so freaking good all the time, actually, in all of the games. But I think to leaving the cast of Persona 5 and thinking it hurt. Like, it actually hurt to leave them because they're so good. And I think that, obviously, that shows me the quality of a good cast. So I was hoping to see that. A lot of what I was hoping to see turned out, at least right now. These are other people's opinions. I want my own opinion. And like I said, I think, the demo definitely helps. The demo makes me feel quite good, and these scores reflect what I think of the demo, right? That it was it's an amazing start. I think the first 4-5 hours of Metaphor are extremely good. If they hold it for the whole game, this is a 94 out of 100 type game, and, it seems like hopefully they're able to hold it, right? So very, very glad to see that it got such high scores. Now we just have to support it. So I'll be playing it this Friday. I want to take my time, and that's another thing I guess we kind of learned over and over again. Like, we keep seeing that 80 to 100 hours. It seems like it's just shy of 100 hours, so maybe slightly less than, say, Persona 5 specifically. So, yeah, it's going to take me a bit, but I definitely want to make videos on it, cover it best I can, give you guys a full review. Hopefully not like a month later, but it'll definitely take a little while. So, appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate all the support for all these Metaphor videos. Let me know what you think in the comments on this one. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.